Hey everybody, we're going to be doing another list video today. We're going to be talking about 10 brands that came close to or outright canceled themselves. Cancel culture is an interesting thing, and it's very much part of our society right now. People are very quick to completely cut out people or brands, really anything, if they do anything that they do not agree with. We're going to be talking about 10 brands that really made some moves that came very close to or just completely outright canceled their entire brand, made them incredibly unpopular. The first of which, I feel like this is the most appropriate thing to start this video off with since I had a huge part to do with this, is Eevee Blender. Back in, I want to say late 2016, there was a Kickstarter for a new type of blending foundation sponge. It was called the Eevee Blender. It was made of silicone, and the idea was that unlike traditional ways of applying foundation, like the beauty blender or a brush, which can absorb product, which leads to wasting product because you're not getting it on your skin, this claimed to not waste any product. All of the foundation that went onto the Eevee Blender was going to go onto your skin, so you use less product, you save money, your foundation lasted longer, all that jazz. I backed the Kickstarter because I thought it was a really cool idea and I wanted to try it out. Ended up getting the Eevee Blender. When did I get it? I don't know. It was like May or June. I can't remember exactly. Posted a first impressions video and I really did not like it. I had a lot of issues with the Eevee Blender. This led to the Eevee Blender YouTube channel leaving a comment on my videos that was kind of condescending, basically telling me how to use it. So I filmed a second video trying all of the tips that they told me. I didn't want to completely just write them off based off of what I tried to do, so I used their tips, still didn't like it, and thought that was the end of it. It was not. This turned into a gigantic, huge debacle. They sent me a cease and desist. They claimed they didn't send me a cease and desist. I had proof of a cease and desist. I had to have lawyers involved. There was so much stuff that happened. A lot of different websites picked up this story and talked to me about it. There's a lot of denial on their end, and then I had the CEO calling me at random times asking me to, she wanted to pay me to say good things about her company, and there was just a lot of like really uncomfortableness in that whole situation. And now Eevee Blender doesn't exist because there was a lot of backlash with that. It seems to be a theme with some of the brands we're going to talk about today. People get too close to their companies. They treat it like their baby. That's what happened with this, is that the CEO got too involved when they should have taken a step back, had PR deal with things, and it ended up becoming a much bigger deal than it needed to be. So, Eevee Blender. Next up is the next one that I feel like is the most obvious, and that is Kat Von D Beauty. If you watched my last video, it was me watching Kat Von D's video talking about she's not a Nazi and she's not anti-vax.
And I am choosing not to make our decision or any of our baby's health records public, and I just want to thank you guys for respecting that. All right, guys, so before I go, I just want to read
where she does not say that she's pro-vax. If you're not one, then you're gonna do the other. Basically, last year, Kat Von D mentioned to somebody on Instagram that she was not vaccinating her, at the time, unborn child. This caused a humongous just explosion of anger. This was the first time that I had to take a stance because I was just so like blown away that somebody could say that when they have such a huge platform. Ever since then, her sales have not been what they used to. Kat Von D used to be a huge force in the beauty world. Her products were very, very popular, and since she posted about not vaccinating her child, it's kind of been downhill, and you see a lot of her products at discount stores, discounted on Sephora's website. I mean, one of my theories, I don't know if it's true or not, but was that she posted this video saying that she's not anti-vax because she had pressure from the beauty end and the people who are running her beauty company that she needed to say something about it because it was affecting sales. There's been lots of people who have made mock palettes where they changed the names on her palettes to be polio, measles, mumps, rubella, all sorts of preventable diseases that you get vaccines for. It really shows that how much a representative of a brand can cause that brand to just crumble. just completely crumble. The next one on my list is Lime Crime. Lime Crime has been a very controversial brand for a very, very, very long time. They have a history with their owner who, her name was Xenia back in the day. She used to make clothes on LiveJournal. I would follow her. I really loved her back in the day. I'm talking like over 10 years ago. And then she made her makeup line, Lime Crime. There was a lot of controversy. There was a lot of issues with her as a person. There were pictures of her dressed up as Hitler. There were just a lot of issues with her. And then there were issues with some of the Lime Crime products. There was a whole security issue where people's credit card information was taken. There was a lot of problems over the years. As far as I'm aware now, Lime Crime is under completely new management, and Doe Deer is not involved, or at least she is not involved in any in charge way. Like, I think she has like a creative role, but not anything where she's calling the shots in the company anymore. That shows that they might be trying to like turn things around and get that reputation out of the way, but the person who is the reason for a lot of these problems is still involved. So you gotta take that as you wanna take it. Next on the list is Sunday Riley. Sunday Riley had an issue at the end of last year where they were caught posting fake reviews on websites like Sephora. There were emails that were leaked from Sunday Riley herself, basically saying how to go about leaving these reviews so that they don't get flagged and taken down, and how they needed to use a service like a VPN to change their IP. They had to make multiple accounts. They had to leave reviews on other products to make it seem legitimate, so it wasn't just one company. They had to leave them on other brands, and all of these different steps to make it so that those reviews would stay. And basically, when all of this came out, Sunday Riley's response was like, that's what you got to do in this world. Like, it was like a sorry not sorry. So that caused a lot of people to be really kind of upset, and it goes to show how, you know, reviews of products was originally supposed to be this great thing to show you what was a product worth getting and what wasn't. But when you see this, and when you see the extremes that these people will go to, it's not like you can just go through and easily go, okay, well, they are only reviewing Sunday Riley and they made their account 2 days ago. They go to all these steps to make them seem so legitimate, and it's scary and it sucks. And so a lot of people really were turned off by that business practice and will not use Sunday Riley products anymore. The next one is Too Faced. Now, Too Faced is one that I don't feel like they've completely canceled, like exonerated themselves like brands like Kat Von D. I don't know if there's a way that Kat Von D can come back from the damage that has been done. But Too Faced has definitely gotten itself in hot water quite a few times in the past. The most memorable for me is the picture of the owner of Too Faced, Jared, and he had a cake that said "Rich Lives Matter." It wasn't anything on the Too Faced account, it was on his personal account, but he is the CEO, he's a co-owner of Too Faced, so it sort of really reflects badly on Too Faced themselves. People were very upset about this cake because it was kind of doing a play on Black Lives Matter and changing it to Rich Lives Matter. It leaves a really bad taste in your mouth. It doesn't really make you want to give more money to a company that's owned by someone who is making a joke like that and posting it somewhere publicly. Too Faced is, of course, they've had different issues as well. I know the Nikki Tutorials palette was a huge issue. She had posted swatches on her YouTube of the colors in the palette, and then when people received the palette, it was an entirely different level of pigmentation. It was much worse. So it was a lot of issues with that. Nikki had said that the product that she received was that pigmented, and so then something happened with production, and they changed it without telling her. Kind of shady if that's the way it went down, and really, again, just leaves a bad taste in your mouth. The next brand on the list is Z Palette. Z Palette is a company that's been around since 2009, and they create magnetic palettes so that you can put your eyeshadow pans, or if you depot your eyeshadows. This was a big thing when they first came out because it gave everybody a way to depot any single eyeshadows they had. You could easily organize them. You could have everything all together. And they came under fire in 2017 when they came out with what they called a Z Potter, which was essentially a hot plate. You were able to put your single eyeshadows on, and it would heat them up enough that you could pull out the eyeshadow out of the packaging so that you could put it into the Z palette. Side note though, I remember depotting eyeshadows with like a crappy flat iron just on like the lowest setting, just waiting, and then it would come right out. It'd be glue, and then like taking off the sticker off the back, you felt like a scientist. You're like using tweezers and all this stuff, and it was a whole like thing. They basically got called out for it being a hot plate, a really expensive hot plate, because you can get those on Amazon for pretty cheap, not $85. They did not take these comments lightly. Z Palette went on to Instagram. They were replying to customers who did not like this idea and really saying things that should not be said to customers. They said such comments as, "You look like a cheap date, but we're not messing with you," and "Thank God we don't need your money." People thought that Z Palette was hacked because these comments were not ones that you would expect from a brand page. When they were called out on these comments and people really were questioning them and wondering if they got hacked and really wondering what the heck they were thinking, they posted a response to all of this, and it's not what you would normally expect. Usually, if a company is doing something that a lot of customers don't like, they'll post an apology or something of that nature. No. Z Palette basically stood behind the customer harassing that they were doing. The long written letter basically is just going into detail about how this is not just a hot plate, and they took a lot of time and attention and 4 years to develop this product, and it's not what you think. And they're standing behind their comments to the quote, "vicious, mean-spirited commenters who have not even tried the product." Basically, they aren't apologizing for saying mean things to the mean comments. They fed the trolls, and then they're mad that that brought more trolls. That's like the number one rule of the internet. Don't feed the trolls. A lot of influencers came out to say that they could not believe that this is how they were talking to people, rude comments or not, and they had a lot of backlash from this. After all of these issues, it seems like they ended up cleaning up all of the comments. From what I remember, and I don't know if this is 100% true, but I remember reading that it was the CEO who was writing all of these comments. And that's kind of the same thing that happened with Evie Blender. Sometimes the owner of these brands gets in a place where they shouldn't be. They take offense like a mother who's like talking to a bully of their child instead of leaving it into the hands of the professionals. And I think that's what happened in this situation. Next on the list is Tarte. Tarte came under serious fire last year when they released their Shape Tape foundation. Tarte originally came out with Shape Tape concealer. It was massively popular. Everybody loved it. It was super, super concentrated, super pigmented, covered everything, but still was nice and blendable and didn't feel too thick. I love Shape Tape concealer. So of course, you know, the brand was like, how can we expand this? And they came out with Shape Tape foundation. The issue was that the shade range was not great. Ever since Fenty Beauty was launched and how they launched with 40 foundation shades and have been continuously expanding that line, it's pretty much put every other brand in check. You better come out with lots of different shades, lots of different undertones, otherwise you are going to come under fire. And that's exactly what happened with Tarte. Upon hearing the backlash of the internet nation, Tarte kind of backpedaled. It seems like they did what a lot of companies seem to do in this situation, which was a, whoops, we didn't mean to forget about you guys, but just know we're making stuff now. Which to me sounds like all of this was already in production, and then Fenty and like everyone else, and it became a huge deal to have this many shades. Instead of Tarte, you know, delaying the release of this, they went, okay, well, we'll deal with the backlash. They had to know. That's my thought in this day and age. Like, you know what people are looking for. You know that representation is so important. So to come out with a foundation range that is missing an entire group of people who want to buy your product, you gotta know this. So they came under fire for this. So to me, it's kind of like, why wouldn't you have just waited 6 months? Why wouldn't you have waited until you had all those shades? You knew, like, you had to have known that this was going to happen. And that just builds more anticipation and gives you more time to market how amazing your product is. But they didn't. They had a huge backlash for it and had to deal with the consequences. Next brand we're going to talk about is Huda Beauty. One of the big things that got Huda in hot water is a post that was on her Facebook posting to her blog about vagina lightening and how to lighten your vagina when it gets dark. It to me reads as one of those, there are different companies that will basically make an ad and post an ad on your Facebook, and then it goes to what looks like your website, but it is a post that just goes on all different websites, if that makes sense. So it looks like a real article, but it's not actually written by Huda or her team. Regardless of that, not exactly a cute look to have this being promoted on any of your social channels, because it's kind of not really a healthy thing to be promoting, because that's unnecessary to say the least. They updated the post saying that they don't feel it's necessary to lighten your vagina, but this post will share helpful and safe ways to do it. Okay. There's also been issues with Huda Beauty copying the indie brand Beauty Bakery, and how after they came out with some of their products and just comparing them and things like that, that also did not sit well with a lot of people. Huda was coming out with a new line called Huda Easy Bake, which had a very obvious bakery theme going on. And there is an indie brand called Beauty Bakery, which their products are also very bakery, flour, sugar, all the ingredients themed. Beauty Bakery had a really great response to this. They made a post on Instagram that said, everybody's invited to the baking party, even Huda. I have to give them major props for this, because they basically diffused the entire argument by saying it doesn't matter. It's not a big deal. I think that that is super classy. Whether they think that Huda copied them or not, I do have to give them major props for just diffusing the situation and not really worrying about it. And honestly, at the end of the day, it probably got them a lot more exposure than not. So good for them. I had asked all of you on Instagram stories who I should talk about during this video, and pretty much everybody that I've mentioned so far was on that list. The next one I was debating talking about, but we're going to talk about it because there was a lot of drama last year, and that is DCM, or the company that owns The Ordinary. There was a lot of drama last year between DCM, the owner Brandon, and Estee Lauder. Estee Lauder was the parent company of DCM. There was a lot of issues with Brandon, the owner, using the DCM Instagram page as his own personal page. So he would post a lot of stuff that had nothing to do with the products, had nothing to do with the brand. It was a lot of accusations of someone coming to get him. It was a lot of things, and it was a lot of posts, and people were really turned off by this. Estee Lauder actually ended up taking him out as CEO of DCM and putting somebody else in. And shortly thereafter, Brandon was actually found dead in his, I believe in his apartment. So I didn't know if I wanted to talk about this because it's really kind of crazy. The post that he was making sounded so out there, and just, it was a lot of contradicting information. It was a lot of just things that didn't make any sense, and I don't even know if we found out how he died. But I didn't know if I wanted to talk about it because it was just, it still is just shocking to me. Shocking. I don't even know if they really count as canceling themselves, because it was one of those things, even before he had passed away, it was one of those things where I was trying to find that line between the products and the owner. It's sort of like the Too Faced thing, is yes, they represent their brand, but is it enough? Because a lot of these kind of things probably happen behind closed doors, but because the doors have been open to us with social media, and so much of this is now, we get a much clearer view, does it end up affecting our thoughts on the brand itself? The last one I'm going to talk about was very requested as well on Instagram stories, and that is OCC, Obsessive Compulsive Cosmetics. OCC, literally, they're the one on this list, they literally canceled themselves out of nowhere. A lot of people had noticed that they were doing a lot of sales on their websites. Things were buy one, get one free, or they were just doing massive, massive sales. And then one day, they just didn't exist. Their Instagram was gone, their website was gone, their emails were gone. They just completely dropped off the face of the planet. There's a lot of different theories as to why this happened. Some people have posted that it has to do with Sephora, and how Sephora has a lot of huge standards and huge expectations when they take on a brand to be in their store, and that it ended up causing OCC to go bankrupt. Nobody really knows what the end-all be-all case is here, but I've never seen a company just go poof and then they completely cease to exist. Usually, you know, you see like we're sad to going out of business, buy all our stuff, like trying to get rid of stock, but no, they just gone. So crazy and so unexpected. 100% nobody could have seen that type of exit happening. So crazy. So that's it for my list of 10 brands that pretty much or totally canceled themselves. Feel free to give me any other ideas for top 10 lists, or it doesn't even have to be 10, just lists. I'm liking these list videos. So I'll see you later.